Then I think we start. Hello. This conference wouldn't be as a good a conference if we didn't have our platinum sponsors. So now we're going to hear from 3 of them, and there are going to be 2 more tomorrow. And I urge you to visit the sponsors. They have a lot to offer us, to all of us, so visit them. They are a very important part of this conference too. So now we're going to hear from Blackboard.
Okay, hello. Still good morning. It's going to be afternoon very soon, and then after the three sponsors, we will have the lunch. Okay, and I appreciate that you are staying here. It's always nice being in front of an audience like you, from universities, driving this digital transformation. That's what's mentioned was mentioned before. Okay, I will make a small and quick review of who is Blackboard, and then I will address, I believe, 2 of the drivers that are building this university for the future. My name is Juan Alegret, and I'm the Regional Vice President for Blackboard in Europe. As I mentioned, I'm going to quickly review at least 2 of the axes or the pillars of what we understand this capture of the future should be, and also try to be positive, and we can get there very, very soon. Okay. For those that do not know Blackboard, well, Blackboard is the leading edtech company in the world, okay, and with the experience and expertise that these 20 or more years in being in the market have given us, but as well this expertise of serving millions of students and professors and administrative staff on a daily basis. For those of you who know Blackboard, okay, or still have an old picture of Blackboard, we've gone through a kind of digital transformation, as the previous speaker was mentioning, okay, transforming not only completely the company, but as well all of our product offering in the market. Today, I can say that we offer the most innovative, modern, with the best user interface, set of solutions for the teaching and learning in the market. But as the theme of the conference is Campus for the Future, and I believe one of the things we should address today is which is this way, which is the way to follow for universities in order to get to this ideal campus or campus for the future. Because we have many options, many paths maybe to follow. From a teaching and learning perspective, I'm going to address 2 of these drivers. There are many, but I will just focus on 2. The first one, it's around the student expectations. During many conferences around the higher education, and during many years, the student was not appearing. The university was focused on this teaching, on research, on the reputation, in getting the results. But for a long time, the student was not at the center. And I believe that now that we are rethinking the new environment, we should put back those expectations of the students. It's funny because I believe there's very few students here in the room. And maybe we should have more, and not in the room, but in a panel, okay? Because they are the people we should be listening to in order to build this university for the future. Because they have ideas. They want classroom in a way, they want to be taught in different ways. They've embraced already the technology. So they have some expectations that we need to address. For a number of years, in the last few years, a number of people and research papers have been looking at these student expectations. I want to mention here Xavier Prats-Monnet, okay, who was the DG of the European Commission for Education and Culture, and one of the fathers of this Erasmus Plus program that we have right now. So a few years ago, he was saying that the students are leading, for the first time ever, the changes in education. Okay. And that's very important. So who is going to define us where we need to go is not going to be, I believe, this audience, the rectors, vice-rectors, provosts. It really, we should take into consideration the voice of the students. If I look and I jump into the US, Educos, I'm having here John O'Brien, who is with the timer, okay. So they've been already in the US working and researching around this next generation digital learning environments. If you can see on their kind of architecture, high-level architecture, they put the student at the center. And that's the way we should, I believe, think and do. In Blackboard, we've been working with several universities, or many universities, helping them to define this student experience. Okay, one of them was the University of George Mason in Virginia, I believe one of the fast-growing universities in the US. We've collaborated with this university in defining this strategy to put the student in the center, with different objectives they have: the student success, get better results, enhance, reduce the dropout. But in this whole redesigning, the student, again, was at the center. And before jumping to the other topic, they set up also some different second-level objectives. One of them was reduce barriers. So the students should get into a campus and shouldn't be seeing different silos, not only from the physical point of view, but as well from the IT or the environment point of view, from the websites and everything, okay, with a kind of universal design. With this idea of putting the student in the center, it's what at Blackboard we've been doing during these last few years in redesigning all of our platforms, okay? And that's why today we are providing an integrated environment with a new approach into the different elements that are required for the teaching and learning. We have a new learning management system, Blackboard Learn Ultra, the most innovative model in the market today. We keep an open source platform, OpenLMS, which is very successful mainly in countries where the open source is a mandate. And we are getting, just for your information, like 1 new customer per day. So growing very, very fast. But as well with other solutions for collaboration, data analytics, for accessibility, etc. But since we have a limit of time, let me jump into the other driver that I understand the new campuses, or this campus for the future, should be looking. It's around the universal design. Those of you that participated in the EUNIS conference last year in Paris, we maybe attended one conference from Nicolas Mathiers, from our product development team, and he explained the difference between accessibility and universal design. So he was the keynote speaker on the last day. But let me jump into his explanations and get part of what he was mentioning. So when we design anything, a campus, a new application, a house, a street, a metro station, whatever, we need to have these kind of things in mind, okay? That there's going to be a user, okay? Again, the user is at the center, so the student is at the center. But when we are designing it, we should be applying not only accessibility requirements, but really a more broader view that we define as this universal design, when we start developing or start planning based on these premises, the results are really going to be much better. Okay, and I put it this kind of example of these three people trying to see a football match. Okay, so from the equality to the equity to accessibility to this universal design where I do not need external features in order to have this full accessibility. But we are in Europe, okay, and we have sometimes complex ways to apply. And after this presentation, I need to sign the GDPR, okay? So the new one that it's coming, it's this new EU directive that is already in place in all the European countries that is going to force us, all of us, for the digital accessibility in all of our websites, LMSs, student information systems, everything. Platforms are normally accessible, but what happens when content is uploaded into the platform or into a website? I've looked at a very recent research, this from Spain, and they asked the universities, do you have programs to facilitate content which is accessible for the students? 88% of them said yes. But then this research asked the students, and they asked, which are the main barriers that you face in accessibility in your university? The number one was the classroom, okay? So this classroom maybe is not accessible, okay? With the stairs, whatever, it's very difficult. But the second barrier that the students perceived is that the materials offered by the professor are not accessible. So if we do not address that, from September this year, the universities will be failing into applying this new EU directive. And in the next year, all content, all websites need to be accessible. In Blackboard, we have a solution. Last year, we presented the environment, but we never presented the solution. It's called the Blackboard Ally. It's a solution for LMSs and websites and focuses in the content that is on the LMS or on the web pages and the content that it's as well attached. And through machine learning algorithms, we are creating more accessible documents. And we provide to the user, in this case the student or the user accessing any website, an accessible version, but even in different formats. So the student can choose the format. I'm going to have an enhanced version in HTML, in EPUB, eBraille, voice, or even going through a translation into different languages. Okay, so that will break some of the barriers that we have in Europe or with different countries with translations. But we are as well providing to these instructors and professors who upload documents through a test to define if it's accessible or not and what they need to do in order to make it more accessible. And last, we offer institutional reports. So these are the two, I will say, drivers that I wanted to highlight. So thank you. And as it was mentioned, so we are here just outside in the exhibition area. So if you want more questions, a demo, or how to engage with your university, either with new platforms or with this Ally solution, come and see us. Okay, and tomorrow we will have a presentation that you can join as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we'll have to go to the booth for the questions, since we're a little bit short of time and we are the people between you and the lunch. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
To Joan. I forgot to present myself. My name is Ole. I'm working here at the EUNIS committee. Now I'm going to present the Chief Technologist for VR from HP. He's been there a while. He's been using computers that I didn't make, but I was in a company called DEC, and he used the old PDP 8s and 12s. And then he's an old guy, but he's doing VR, so we'll see.
Tech guy, but I don't know how to use tech. Okay, so I'm Paul Martin. I work in Colorado at HP, and I'm the chief technologist, as he said, of the VR group. And I'm actually kind of a recent educational convert in some sense, I guess. I'm mostly a technologist, and I've been working in high-performance computing and computer graphics for the last 35 years. I've recently been asked to help focus on education. I've been working with Gus Schmedlin, who's our VP of Education, and I'm starting to come up the curve. And I got asked today to talk about XR, or VR and AR, in education. So, won't belabor these definitions because I think you all know this probably better than I, but there's probably three kinds of alternate realities that we talk about. One is augmented reality, where you would add digital content to the real world, so I could see something floating in front of me that may not be correlated with the space around me, but I can see it nonetheless. There's virtual reality. And a good example is here's the shameless product plug, our new headset, which we're demonstrating outside. And then mixed reality is something, a term that Microsoft coined, and it really speaks to the integration of virtual objects into the environment around you such that they actually correlate with the environment. So for example, I could have this as a hologram, for example, and I could put this on the table and it wouldn't physically be there, but it would know enough about the table to know that's where it should stop moving when I set it down. So correlation with the physical environment. So those things together, a lot of people try and position them competitively, like AR will beat VR long term and things like that. And probably from a market standpoint, that may be true in terms of total dollars, let's say, or krona. But we actually see them as pretty complementary, and we tend to call them together extended reality, and we actually see the solutions merging over time as well. So it won't always be that you're wearing just a VR headset. You'll have the capability of bringing in the world around you as well. So, okay, so as I have seen over my long tenure, things have changed pretty significantly in terms of the work and life. I guess I probably started in the industrial age, maybe a little bit later than that. But I've probably seen the information age kind of come to light, and now I guess we're in the experience age where collaboration and creativity and creating together is a fundamental aspect of how we create new solutions for people. If you look at the requirements associated with the educational process, from our perspective anyway, yes, the skills needed are the standard STEM and beyond kinds of skills that we have in our institutions today, but it feels like there's a new level of flexibility, problem solving, and additional creativity and collaboration required to solve some of the more complicated problems, and a lot of interdisciplinary kind of interaction we're seeing as well. So, with that context, HP has its own Campus of the Future program, and we see kind of some of the fundamental tenets being very standard kinds of things, such, well, you need students, of course, if you're having a campus, you need faculty as well, and you need secure and green campuses, but there's an opportunity to augment that with new forms of learning and new ways of approaching things. So I'm going to talk mostly today about, in my remaining probably 10 minutes, about immersive learning and collaboration spaces and how we bring those to light. Okay, and finally, I couldn't help this. I was in Lillestrøm, I guess, yesterday. There's a big shipping fair, and your prime minister was there, and she actually was doing VR. So we got a picture of her, and I wanted to give her as an example of immersively engaged leadership. And I'll actually bring this up again later in the pitch, but this is really impressive to me. I can't imagine that in my country, for example. So I won't go any further, but this was very impressive. She wore the headset. It was a shipping example application, and she was in there for probably about 10 minutes. It was a collaborative experience, and she was learning how to do things on a ship and so forth, and completely engaged. And her staff kept saying, "You need to move on now. It's time to move," and she wouldn't leave. So that gives you an idea. Okay. So, where did it all start? Well, it actually started well before this, but this is kind of the most modern, kind of high-tech recent example. This is in the 60s. It's a guy named Ivan Sutherland. He's wearing an AR display, as it turns out, and it was nicknamed the Sword of Damocles because the tracking mechanisms looked like they would chop your head off if they came loose. But since that time, it's been about 50 years since then, and there have been huge advances in graphics, in high-resolution displays, so your cell phone's a great example of that, various sensors, computer vision algorithms, and content. And the last is probably the key, actually, for AR and VR, is the technology will progress. It always has, and people have a love for doing that, but many times technology can be stunted by lack of content, and there are some really good platforms available in the coming from the gaming space, so you probably all know Unity and Unreal as platforms. They're also excellent platforms to develop VR and AR content as well, and so that's really helped democratize the creation of content for this technology. So with all that lovely progress, we get interesting devices and solutions such as, again, the shameless product plugs. You'll see the headset at the top is our new headset, and below that's our backpack, and we're demonstrating both outside. But other things such as the lit-up glasses there, mobile VR is becoming a very big thing now. So the technology is getting good enough that you can have a very good mobile experience with just a head-mounted display now and nothing else. So that's starting to become a real factor. And then below that is the new HoloLens. So does everybody know what a HoloLens is? HoloLens is an augmented reality device that allows you to put something on your head, and it's just your head, and you look around and you'll see those holograms I was talking about before. So I can see a dancing ballerina in front of me, or somebody indicating speed up or something like that. So that's also a factor here. Okay, so now I'm going to mention EDUCAUSE, and John O'Brien here. HP and EDUCAUSE work together to study learning in immersive or 3 dimensions, as we described a little bit there. We worked with 11 U.S. institutions, and you'll recognize some of the names, very prestigious for the most part, except for my alma mater. In the studies, there were basically immersive learning experiences prototyped, and they set learning goals, various learning goals for the experiences, and then correlated them with the type of learning that was attempted, and saw which ones were good correlations and which weren't. And the thing that took me by this table was that the immersive technologies, AR and VR, were well correlated with just about all the learning goals that were stated. So pretty impressive correlation there. There's been other studies done. This company is on the west coast of the US. It's called Sama Learning. They did studies with 1,000 college students at 3 universities, and they checked to see how efficacious the learning was with immersive technologies. In this case, it was VR. They found on average grades got better, 1 full letter grade, easily. The failure rate went down to 0, which that seems kind of convenient, but okay, dropped dramatically, let's say that. And then this is probably the most interesting, is the lowest performers showed about almost a 300% increase in their results in standardized tests in using VR versus alternate learning techniques. So that does speak a lot to the efficacy, I would have to say. And even better, after all this, 100% still wanted to do VR, so they weren't sick of it yet. And 92% said yes at home even, so. Another quick stats, time to learning is generally seen to be very much reduced in immersive technology environments. So in this particular case, it was a training simulation, and they saw about a 30% reduction in time to task acquisition, okay? And also very important is the retention rates are significantly better generally when you learn how to do things spatially and immersively. So in this case, it was seen to be 70% better versus standard learning. Okay, here's our leader again, or your leader. And I thought I'd mention that, so I'm from Colorado. We have a local university there that's actually pretty forward-thinking in terms of immersive technologies. Our proxy is a guy named Alan Rudolph, who's leading immersive technologies at CSU. He does a hackathon every year where he brings students and other people in to create solutions. And why that's interesting is that one of the hackathons led to an anatomy course being developed, which is now this summer will be put in place at CSU and will be used to learn anatomy. No big deal, right? Well, they actually built an entire floor of a building for this, and they have 100 stations of VR organized in 25 pods of 4 people that are doing anatomy learning together in a virtual environment. And so we're deploying that now. Next year, if I get asked to speak again, I'll let you know how it goes, and we'll see if I smell like formaldehyde or not. But anyway, so that's potentially a pretty good example. Another one. This is at MIT. How many minutes do I have here? About.
You have.
Okay. MIT. This is a guy named Scott Greenwald. He was with the Media Lab, and he's now with the Materials Research Lab. He also has his own company called CoVR, and they're actually using VR to explore electrostatic and electromechanics, so charged particles. And in a collaborative environment, you can work with somebody else and move charged particles together and see what the electric and magnetic fields look like, and so forth. These are very difficult concepts. I was an EE in school, and I struggled, despite the fact of having one of the best artists on the planet to try and draw out electrical and magnetic fields, I struggled understanding what the spatial relationships were. This puts it right in front of you. So if you're standing here doing this with me, we'll see the particles and we'll see the fields going around the particles, and if we move things, they'll change, etc. So much more effective. A couple other things. This is Mark Griswold at Case Western, and he was a participant in the EDUCAUSE studies. He's actually using a HoloLens here, and this is another anatomy course. And what sets this apart is that with the HoloLens, you can see the thing you're supposed to be looking at, the skeleton in this case, but you can also see the other people around you, and you can tell what they're looking at or what they're pointing at. You can see if they're understanding or not, and the information transfer between people collaborating in this case is very, very good. So this is one of the main benefits of an AR experience, is you're able to see the people you're working and collaborating with. So very successful program. Widely copied, by the way. I probably shouldn't say that. Okay. And this actually is at Harvard, and this is electrical engineering, near and dear to my pacemaker. And they're learning how a speaker works in this case. So they're learning about electrical and magnetic fields and how they actually play. Now, they did 2 versions of this. One was without the augmented reality aspect, and you move things around and things work all of a sudden. And then they actually overlaid augmented information showing what the input and output signals look like, what the magnetic fields look like, and actually what the sound looked like coming out of the speaker. And it became a lot more intuitive to the students, what was going on when they moved the speaker magnet away from the coil and things like that. The graphics here are a little bit offset because they were capturing them from a different perspective than the actual student, but you can get the idea here. So, okay, so yet another example. Now, all of those are from universities, and they're one-off kinds of projects. People got excited about a concept and said, let's go ahead and create something. What I think the industry needs, again, has to do with content, and I think there are companies now springing up, including Blackboard, that are creating content and curricula that will be used broadly across institutions as opposed to one-offs in the individual institutions. Last slide, challenges. So, did I say content? Yes. Content and good testable content is actually absolutely necessary. Solutions are still too expensive, and we understand that, and we're working on lower cost solutions. The quality of the overall solution is improved dramatically over the last couple of years, but still has a ways to go. And then last 2 are interesting. Remote learning is a huge thing in the United States. It's, I think 80% of people are either remote learning or want to be remote learning. And part of that is because they can't afford to go to a standard, on-site college. Another part is they need to be time shifted because they work during the day or something like that. So bringing that into the virtual environment is a task we're working on right now. And then effective collaboration in that environment is also a very important task. So with that, thank you very much. And any questions? Yeah, cheers.
I think we take the questions outside because.
Okay, we're out of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're just few minutes for lunch. I just want to say everyone is pointing at John. He's sitting down there, and he's the president of EDUCAUSE, and EDUCAUSE is our kind of the EUNIS sister in the United States. There was some documentations up here with reports from EDUCAUSE. I think you have to be a member to get some of them. It's nice organizations to be a member of. Any of it from NTNU here? We are a member, so you can make up your accounts and take all the things, good things you can from EDUCAUSE. Now I'm a tech guy, and I've been an architect, and now I'm going to present Dimensional Insight. I didn't care so much about spreadsheets and data, and I didn't need the data in my work, but as older I got, the more data I need to make good decisions. So we'll see what Dimensional Insight can give us.
Thank you very much. You can. I am Jens Rundqvist from Infotool Sweden. We are a partner of Dimensional Insight. And I'm very proud to be here. Interesting to try to beat the other presenters. I thought they were very good. But I will speak on a total different matter. I think research is very important for universities. And this is a case study which ended out with the possibility to measure hit rate for research funding, which is of course interesting to get more money in research so you can do better. And this case study is on how data management and dashboarding have helped to streamline the process of research funding for Malmö University, based in the south of Sweden. Before I get into the actual case study, I want to mention a few words about Malmö University. As I said, they are residing in the south of Sweden. They are very close to the continent, as they have a bridge over to Denmark. It's easy to go there. The university is in the city center. It was founded in 1998, 24,000 students, around 2,000 employees, and there's a lot of variety to choose from. 100-degree programs and 350 courses. They have 5 faculties, from the Faculty of Health and Society to the Faculty of Odontology. They also do research, of course. They have 5 research centers, and between them it spans from life sciences, health, and technology. But let's go back to the case study, and the actual process, to be precise, is the internal process on how to apply for research funding. This was how it used to work. The researchers loved it because they were in total control. It was a PDF they could download, they printed it, they filled it in manually, and then they could be very, very late because they just find the person who could sign, and then they sent it on. So the researchers were happy. But there were 2 major drawbacks with this process. First of all, data not at all available for analytics, as this was stored in individual printed forms. Of course, we had data management and quality issues with manually filled in forms. You can think of researchers. It's not so important to fill in a form, and everybody did as they wanted, so it was very hard to gather this, even if you wanted. So what did we do then? How should we solve this? And the solution was to digitalize part of this process using software from Dimensional Insight regarding data management and dashboarding. And then we configured this software. Malmö University was doing most of the job, but in collaboration with Infotool Sweden. So I think we've shared the solution. And the new process is that you can go to a website. You can here see all applications that are made and the status of the applications. and you start a new application on this website. You fill in a digital form, but then you do a printout and a signing. So it was easy to get this into the hands of the researchers. It was not so much change. And I would say that this is often the hardest part when working with software, to really get the organization to use it. So this was good with a small change. I would like to share some screenshots so you can see how it actually looks. This was the start page. Here you can see all the applications that is made. And of course, for GDPR reasons, the names are blanked out. But you can see here, if you look, that you can see the registration number, very important. You can see the status and the number of money that is asked for, but also the money that is granted, if it has been granted money. So this is a very good start, just to have an overview. Then you can press a button. I want to register for a new application. You just press that button and you get to the form. And here all the important information is gathered, all with red text. You have to fill in, it's compulsory. And very important is the third row, that now it's in Swedish, but it's the registration number. You have to get it from the registry or from the responsible economist to fill it in, because that is the key, so you can actually get what money is granted to this specific application. So really important key. Once it's filled in, only correct forms can be printed, so you have to fill in everything. But Malmö University added an extra layer of control, and that was that the responsible economist for all the researchers is the only one that can print. And that has made the process much more secure, so the economist can check that this is fully filled in. And then you get this kind of printed form for signing, and it looks like this, but with little different information. And the good thing here is that it's a standardized printed form with all required information. And the responsible for signing, it's much easier to make a decision when you have all the correct information easily readable. And it was also much more efficient and flexible to keep the process just to print out and hand in for signing for the researchers. So the results of these two of these small things in the process has been that the internal process for research funding has been streamlined, great time-saving effects, easier decision-making, and also better information management in the whole university, because everybody can see the applications, you can learn from each other to see what applications have been granted, how should we work, all applications for research from 2018 are now available for data analytics. We would have had more, but there was no one that really wanted to take these old forms and get them into the system. So from 2018 and onwards we can do analytics. And it's also possible to measure hit rate for applications. And as I understand it, it's not so common that you can measure the hit rate for applications. You know how much funding you have, but not the hit rate. And so this was an extra benefit. So now you have a nice dashboard at Malmö University, and you can look at the hit rate. Here we have a specific institution, and they can see that this year to date they have 36 applications sent. Last year to date 34, so a little bit better. But regarding to hit rate, it was a little bit less this year, 11% regarding to 18%. Of course, this could be many reasons, but this is a very good starting point for discussion to get better. And I think that is a great opportunity for the future to collaborate even more around data and learn from each other. Very important. If you want to have more information about this, you can you're more than happy to contact with Malmö University and Jesper Nilsson. You have his contacts there, and of course you can talk to me. But of course, we would like to meet you outside in our booth. It's just outside here. Here are my nice colleagues at Dimensional Insight. And something that I also want to mention is that Dimensional Insight software is open. And what I mean with that is that if you have invested in a BI tool like Power BI, Tableau, or something else, it's possible to use our software together with that. So we are open and we want to collaborate. Thank you very much.
Kept your time down, so we are almost there at lunch.
Okay,
so,
very
yeah.
good.
Yeah. What you presented is a big issue at our university, so we are making actually our own solution. So you are hitting us right in the belly with it.
I didn't know.
No, you didn't know. So thank you very much for the speakers. It was very interesting. Remember, tomorrow there's also 2 more sponsors talking. And now you're off for lunch. You know where the lunch is? Probably not. You go out there, these 2 doors, to the right, and you go to the big stairs over there, and up 1 floor. Thank you.